Hi, everybody. Thank you all of you for being here today with us. Pleased to be with you here, Iman, today to talk about this CRA and the things that we are expecting for September. Just a recap and just to prepare the people to remind the different things that they have to prepare. And today we are also trying to propose a practical approach just with our platform, for example, in order to allow the attendants to see how they can implement some of the processes or some of the requirements that they have to implement this process to monitor everything and to check the things, to evaluate if something is exploitable or not, generate the different documents and this kind of things. Okay, so thank you very much for being here, Marivan, everybody.
Thank you very much, Jesus, for organizing this event together. It's a pleasure to be here. So we have 24 hours to report when you notice that there is a security issue that is being actively exploited in your product. And today we prepared a small presentation for you showing big picture, like what is expected from you. But then immediately after that, Jesus is going to show you what it means in practice and how to use your tools efficiently in practice. And just a small recap, a couple of months ago, we did already a presentation about the European Cyber Resilience Act, CRA, but I will just give again high-level reminder what is it about. It's part of the CE conformity rules in Europe. Now, this CE extends to cybersecurity of physical products or any software that runs on premises of consumers in Europe, and it concerns products with digital elements. And it concerns about products that are placed on European market, and also if they have remote data processing, if those products with digital components are connected to backend for data processing, for data storage, suddenly that part also is concerned with this new regulation. What it means exactly to be placed on the market? It means that any manufacturer, distributor, or importer makes that product available on European market for the first time. And that is the moment when the support period starts, that for 5 years afterwards, you have to make sure that you make available security patches for this product, that you keep the technical documentation for at least 10 years for those products, where you can explain how to use these products in a secure way. And you must be available for questions, for contact, for security issues, responses, etc. So if you sell a product in the European market, it should be possible to find your website and contact you, ask security questions or report security concerns to you going forward. So it's not anymore possible just to import something and disappear after 1-2 years. And as of next year, 11 December, every product that is placed on the market after 11 December falls under this law where full conformity will apply. So you need to demonstrate that you develop this product with secure by design, secure by default approach, that you have a proper life cycle, you did SCA properly, SAST scans, and you have SBOMs. Everything must be ready by 11 December. But what is required? So here's a small overview. So you need to have declaration of conformity, the document describing what are the risks with this product, how to configure it, security things in this product. You need to have evidence that all activities you did, and it's risk-based. So you don't have to really cover all security risk of that product, but you need to be reasonable. And if you cannot cover certain risk, you inform through that technical documentation your end users that they have to take care of some threats themselves. For example, you're making a camera to watch your babies, like baby monitor camera, and obviously the end consumer might be sharing that password or making too simple Wi-Fi password, and that can be compromised. Suddenly, everyone on the internet can watch that living room. So that risk you delegate to your consumer, and consumer have to take care of that. And your technical documentation has to clearly explain it. But so far, it's just like explanation, like what is required by next year. Today's topic is part of the notification obligation, which is actually earlier. Now, just to give you a big highlight what I'm expecting from you, that you need to do risk assessment when you develop your product. You need to threat modeling, do the brainstorming session with your developers, with your engineers when you start the project. You need to define security requirements that you'll take into account when you implement the project. You do security implementation, so you take into account the security requirements during implementation phase. Then at verification, when you want to release this product, you need to do some tests, right? You need to verify that those security requirements are actually fixed, covered. And then you need to have documentation, technical documentation about how to use it by default. You must have first level SBOM, and you must, after release, after placing this product on the market, continuously monitor for third-party vulnerabilities. And if you notice that there is active exploit in those vulnerabilities, through those vulnerabilities in your product, you must have incident response process and plan. And all these boxes you see here, they are explicitly mentioned in Cyber Resilience Act, so you must do them. But to make secure by design development, secure by default development, there are much more things you can do. And because it's risk-based, you need to pick right things. And this is a sample model that is developed by OWASP SAM team, which shows all kind of activities you can do when you do product development. And just to show you here with a Xygeni tool that Jesus is going to demonstrate soon, these orange boxes can be supported, can be improved by using a proper SaaS tool, SCA tool, DAS tool, such as them. But of course, there are many options that can work for you on the market. This is not a purely only Xygeni offer, but these are the places where Xygeni does help. And if you don't ensure that you do secure by design, secure by default development, you can get fines, right? So it can be 2.5% of your global revenue. All the money comes in before you do any costs. And if you bluff, you say you do threat modeling, but you actually don't do it. So that's misleading the authorities. It can go to like 2%, 1% of fines of your global revenue. In the worst case, you can lose the European market if you don't comply with this new legislation. Now, these are all like big picture of what's expected, why we'd have CRA, like what is expected from your product. Now I want to focus a little bit about notification obligation, which is earlier than 2027. It's just in 2-3 months. We are here. We are right after summer holidays, have to comply with this. And today's topic is to deep dive into that particular requirements. What is it? So we manufacturers are now obliged to report actively exploited vulnerabilities, not any security concern, not any finding in your SCA SaaS tool, but the ones that are actively exploited. So you need to investigate. And also security incident. If you notice not vulnerabilities, but you actually see that there is a security incident in your backend processing infrastructure or in the product, somebody reported that these products have been hacked, you need to report them to national CERT or ENISA, special agency in Europe, within 24 hours. And afterwards, after 3 days, you need to give an update, like what did you do about it, how did you inform your users? And after 30 days, you need to again make a report about lessons learned and how did you mitigate this problem. And also, next to authorities, you need to inform all your users, consumers as well. And this requirement applies to all the products you manufactured so far. So like in the previous picture, I showed you that everything you implement after December 2027 now has to be, we have evidence that it's secure by design, secure by default. But this particular obligation, notification obligation, applies to any historical product. So even if you make a software, on-premise software, which you made 10 years ago and you sold it, if you became aware that there is an active exploit in that product, you must act and notify authorities. You cannot say that, yeah, that's old product, it's more than 5 years ago. No, if you made aware, now you are obliged to inform your users and authorities about active exploits going forward. And in Europe, we have a couple of standardization organizations like CENELEC, ETSI. They are a bit similar to ISO organization, which is more US-based. European Commission asked this organization, hired them to develop specific standards to support conformance with Cyber Resilience Act. Because if you read Cyber Resilience Act, there are lots of guidance requirements that apply both to manufacturers, CSIRs, and authorities. So it's a legislation that applies to all countries, and it has many details there. But for manufacturers, there are very specific requirement-based lists. Like you see here, 4 examples. We're working on them at the moment. For example, 40,000-1.3 is about vulnerability handling. It has a list of exact what you need to do and what you need to implement in your vulnerability management program to comply with EU CRA. I strongly encourage and recommend looking into this standard. It will be publicly available in a month or two, but you might have already some draft because Sense Analytic have publicly shared them to collect feedbacks from the industry. And if you implement all those requirements, you're automatically considered as conformant for the vulnerability management side of the CRA. Now, what happens in a typical incident for the notification application? You have incoming concerns. If you look at the left side of the screen, and this is a very important, let's say, part, actually, so far it was all introductions, but now we're talking, actually. You have concerns, findings from SCA tools. So you have vulnerabilities in your third-party components. You might do DAS scan of your own source code, and you can see that some of your functions have vulnerability in it that can be actively exploited, maybe even already actively being exploited. You have secret scanners that also part of Xygeni platform, where the Xygeni can tell you that you have some hard-coded secrets in your source code somewhere. You have infrastructure security scanners, where if you have something like Docker Compose file tools, security tools, can look in that infrastructure as a code description and say that you misconfigured your infrastructure. Then you have direct disclosures. Maybe somebody actually contacts you on your website and says, I am aware of some exploit in your products. You have public advisories like a National Vulnerability Database from NIST. You have advisories from GitHub, from other suppliers. You have pen test. Maybe you're hiring an external company to test your products. And you might have bug bounty and maybe any other source of issues. But all of these issues, we call them vulnerabilities, but in a CRA text, it's called a concern. You have incoming security concern. That concern doesn't mean you have to immediately run to ENISA and report that, hey, we have a concern. Here's 10,000 issues we found with our SCA tool. That's not what you're going to do. After each issue, first is in a stage of a concern, then it goes into investigation stage, where you actually need to investigate based on priorities you have, that maybe you see if NIST NVD reported as a critical issue, that is your top priority for investigation. And you investigate, you assess if this issue is actually being actively exploited, if your customers are under high risk, critical risk of being exploited. And only if you confirm that there is active incident due to this vulnerability, you noticed that through that loophole, somebody is actually exploiting your products of you or your customers. Now it's a confirmed incident. And now you have 24 hours to disclose it to authorities, to National CERT, Incident Response Team, or ENISA organization. And of course, you need to prepare to report it to your consumers as well. How would you prepare for that? So what do you need actually? To get all those concerns in and to act on them, you need to have incident response process, incident response policy, however you call it. And Cyber Resilience Act and the standard that I list below, that from Sense Analytic, like 1-1-3 for vulnerability management standard, it has many very nice things that will help you to prepare, and are all very reasonable. For example, let's say that you need to have an action plan to describe what you're going to do when you see such a concern coming in. So if you have somebody reports you an active incident, how are you going to act? What are you going to do? Are you going to bring together a team of people, somebody from support organization, someone from architect, and you're going to investigate? How are you going to investigate that? What's a flow? Then how do you prioritize it? So you have all these incoming issues from SCA tool. Based on what you're going to pick those. You cannot address all thousands of findings, and I'm pretty sure you have thousands of findings today. What are the action plan if actually that concern is confirmed to be an active exploit? Who is going to contact the ENISA? How are we going to coordinate this issue? Are you going to make quickly a team? Are you going to use some internal channel, like Slack channel for this particular incident, where every 2 hours, every member of the incident response going to report? Who is going to facilitate and coordinate it? Usually you appoint one leader, one person, who is the coordinator and gives tasks. You go and check with ENISA, you go and check the products, you communicate with the users. And this person is not supposed to do technical work, only do the facilitation. And once a person overworked after 8 hours, that person needs to delegate this task for the coordination of incident to somebody else. So all of these need to be discussed in advance, document in the guidelines, in your procedures, and ideally you should already have documents next to your product describing what to do in case of a problem. For example, if the developer is not available during the weekend when incident happens, the incident response team should find out where are the security logs of the program, of the product that is under risk or being hacked, compromised, and how to collect those, how to inform the customers, how to find out which products are actually being actively affected by this problem, and how to identify which customers are affected, because very often development team doesn't have any connection with the sales team or licensing team. So as a developer, I might not be aware whom I need to inform in this case. So you need to do this tabletop exercise and prepare everything and know exactly what do you use, what programs do you have, and how to disclose it. So this is incident response part, but similar activities need to be done for vulnerability disclosure process. Also, you need to know how to contact the ENISA. Somebody needs to be a contact person back if ENISA has any question, to follow up questions. And you need to have some templates for disclosure, templates for communication, and ways to identify affected customers, etc. And of course, to be able to do that, so these are all the paperwork, all the process activities that I just listed. But if you don't know what problems you have, if you don't have tools to identify what is active exploit or not, and which versions of software are using that particular third-party component or not, good luck figuring this out within 24 hours. That's why we need the proper tools like SCA, etc. Now, going back to this initial flow where you have incoming concerns on the left, you do investigation, you have a confirmed incident, and then you have 24 hours to disclose those confirmed incidents. The Xygeni tool is the platform, right? Jesus is going to show you in a moment how to use it efficiently for this purpose. This is a platform that gives you all those things, or most of the things on the left side, all the incoming things like SCA, SAS, secret scanner, infrastructure as code scanner, and then it also gives you all the information that you need to address them. For example, it directly shows you which components are used, which versions are affected, what is the advisory text is, which functions actually is wrong or bad, and if you're not using the function, maybe it's false positive. So you need to have proper tooling to support you, so you don't have to panic last 24 hours before you have to disclose it. All right, and from here, Jesus, I would like to give the floor to you and explain like what it means in practice.
Fantastic. Let's try to show how to implement or how we can support some of these steps on this process that you have mentioned. Thank you very much, Nariman. I think it's very clear. Well, our platform, as Nariman was suggesting, we provide a lot of, it's an application security platform that can support you in detecting all these issues that we have in the lab. Okay, as you can see, we have here the static analysis, software composition analysis, protection of the timeline, secrets, infrastructure as code, dust, okay, all these elements that support you detecting any vulnerability from third parties and in the code of the application, okay, and the application in different ways. To support this process, we have the idea or the script to show you has several steps. First of all, you have to configure the product, okay? As Nariman has mentioned, we have to consider the full product, and we are going to show you how we can configure this product, the evolution of the releases of the products, to compare the evolution of the number of vulnerabilities and all these kind of things. Then we have the capabilities to prioritize and to understand what is exploitable, if something is reachable or not, just to do this prioritization and this process. The proactivity in the notifications to support you in notifications on the different potential vulnerabilities, new vulnerabilities, potential malware, and a lot of different things. So you have everything as soon as possible to start working in the immediate moment that we detect something, just to start considering this 24 hours window that we have. That is something that is very important. And then we are going to support you in how we can support you the incident response process, how you can prioritize, making the plan for the remediation, and doing all these things. Okay, so first of all, this is our platform. If you don't know it, well, you can you can register in the platform with our free account. If you want to try or to test something, okay, and start playing with the different things. If you want support, we can do an onboarding with you with a specific support and the animal support also. So we can prepare everything to ensure that you are ready in September for this starting process. Well, first of all, we have different projects in the platform, okay, where we analyze everything. For the demo, I prepare a short environment. It's a company or a group of companies with 2 companies. Inside the company, we have several products. We can aggregate in different ways. So we ensure the visibility and all the things related to permissions. So we are going to consider a product or a couple of products with a combination of different repositories. You can import external SBOM for external projects or external modules. Okay, so you can have always the full picture of the product you are managing. First of all, let's configure the projects or the repositories. Okay, we have everything here. We have some properties for this part. For every project or for every project, we have a set of properties. Some of them we have the possibility to define specific attributes or characteristics. You can define your own properties if you want to create associations or you want to customize the prioritization funnel. And then we have tags. The tags is the most used capability to making groups and to considering the rigidity, permissions, and all the things, okay? You have several tags here. You can create as much as you want, for example. Then we are going to create groups with these tags and the different attributes that we have here. For the configuration, we have the policies that we want to apply to the security analysis, this SAS, the CA, secrets, or whatever. And then we have the releases, where we have different releases, different branches that we can have to ensure that we have all the history there and all the evolution, and we can compare with the baseline across different releases and all these things. Okay, so with this, we are going to have all this view of how was our application, our product in every moment with every release. Okay, with this, if we have a product that is composed by more than one repository, we can configure the groups. In the groups, we have the possibility to group the projects, the repositories, and the import the SBOM in the way we want. Okay, for that we can define what are the criteria for this aggregation, for this logical view of a product. In this case, I selected to everything that has the tag product A. In this case, okay, that is including all these 4 different projects, all these 4 different modules of software. With this, what we are doing is, if I go to the projects, I can select here, I can select a specific project or a group, a product. In this case, if I select the product, I'm going to have the visibility in the platform only for the product and for the full product. I have 3 levels of visibility. I can see the full organization, I can see a product, and I can see a specific repository and a specific project. Okay, with this is the product. These are the 4 projects that we configure, and I can see the risk, the full set of risk of the product in this case. Okay, before analyzing the different the risk, I'm going to, or we are going to show the inventory. The inventory shows you all the assets that you have in your software application, okay, for the point of view of repositories, elements in the delivery layer, all the tools that you are using for developing and all the things. And what is more relevant is from this third party that are the components. In this case, we have here all the components that we have in our product, okay? And for this, we have different information. We have the list of dependencies. We support direct and transitive dependencies. We support everything. We detect everything and we analyze everything. So you are going to have the full picture of the risk in your application. And from this point, you have the list, or okay, and you can see, for example, details about the vulnerabilities and other information in every component that you have here. We calculate several scores here. This is something that we calculate. It's in our database, so you have the visibility. You can see or you can check all the risks that are associated to the specific component, going to the details that we are going to see later. So you have the full picture here. Beyond the risk from a security point of view, you have possibility of, you have malware, you are going to see malware immediately, but you can also manage if something is obsolete or you have to upgrade anything. So you have, for example, in this information, you have here a couple of warnings regarding, okay, you have to upgrade or to search for an alternative in this case, because this is a component that has not maintenance now, okay? And in case of problems with or potential problems with the license, you have all the information here, and you are going to have all this information in the SBOM, that is the standard format that you have to share, or the standard format that is used to share the risk and the inventory of this part, okay? If we want to see the specific repository or whatever, okay, we have the same information here, but we have additional information regarding the dependency tree, sorry. So you can browse through this tree to see the different paths, or if you are trying to search a specific component, for example, I don't know, this past XML. Okay, so you can see only the paths that are containing this specific library that you want to analyze. Okay, so you have all these capabilities, all these things in this part. Okay, with this, or if you go to this part, you can download the SBOM. We support CycloneDX, SPDX, that are the two most extended formats for delivering this information. You can deliver for a specific project, or if you have a full product, you can generate the same for the complete product, okay? To have everything aggregated in one place. You are going to have the inventory of components, everything regarding the license information, everything, the VVR, that is another internal report inside the SBOM with all the vulnerabilities information, okay? In case something is very big, you are going to ask for the SBOM generation. In this case, when we are facing a very big product, this process is asynchronous, so you are going to receive later an email saying, okay, you have the SBOM generated, it's available here, you have a temporal place to download it, so you are going to be able to access the SBOM generated in this place once it's generated and you are notified in your email. Okay, so this is the way to see what are the components, what are the structure of my application, my product. Okay, in this case, I can have global view of the product, or just the detail of every of its components. Okay, and then we can start analyzing the issues of the different vulnerabilities that we have in the product or in every project. Okay, we can see all the vulnerabilities, SAST, CI/CD, if we are exfiltrating any secret in our product or whatever. But probably what is more relevant is the software composition analysis, these third-party vulnerabilities that we are considering. Here we have something that is very, very, very relevant. First of all, you have the list of all the vulnerabilities here with the severity and the explanation, the vector attack, and all the details that we are going to see later. But we have something that is very important for the prioritization, the triage, okay, to discard anything that is not affecting this kind of things. In this case, we use this prioritization funnel. Prioritization funnel is well, we have this configuration by default that we think that is the most useful for this process in this case. But if you want, you can customize the steps, the configuration of each step or whatever. So you can adapt the prioritization process to your specific needs, okay? And even, for example, if you remember, we have a set of custom properties. So if you have any custom properties, you are going to have it available here, so you can integrate your custom properties in this prioritization process, okay? So you have completely full flexibility, full customization capabilities, full adaptability. The standard process is a concatenation of technical and business attributes, okay? The technical attributes are calculated by the platform itself, and you can customize this business approach, the business impact for a specific project, or the organization, the provider, anything you need. So you can prioritize some organizations, some applications against others, and this kind of things. Three important things, or what are the technical approaches that we can see here? First of all, probably today appear a new vulnerability in a component, but it still doesn't have a fix because we need some time to deliver the fix, or the responsible, the maintainer, needs some time to deliver the fix. In that case, we cannot focus on solving those problems because we cannot do anything. We could replace the component, but it's not a valid solution. Okay. After that, we prioritize what is in the product or the production environment. But we are removing what is in the testing part, and then we have these three important stages that are the most critical one. First of all, reachability. Reachability is going to tell you if the vulnerability impacts in the security of your application. Why this is important? This reachability is an analysis at function level. Okay, what this means? Well, in this case, what we are analyzing is the vulnerability appears in a component, but the vulnerability is in a specific part of the component, in a function or in a set of functions. We know the usage that the product is doing of this component, so we can calculate if the execution of the product is going through the vulnerable part or not. If the vulnerable part is not, if the application is not going through the vulnerable part of a component, the vulnerability is not reachable. This means that this vulnerability doesn't affect my application. Nobody can exploit this vulnerability to attack my application. Okay, this translates in that I don't have to do anything because I don't have to solve anything in my product. Okay. The other part is, okay, if something has an exploit available or not. Okay, what this means, sorry, 1 second. This is probably to see it better. So, exploit available means that, okay, I'm going to, or there are some exploits that, or the vulnerability is being exploited in the production environment, in the wheel. So this is more urgent than the rest of the vulnerabilities. And I'm going to show you later the different information. And then we have the information about the exploitability. If something is exploitable or not. How urgent is to solve this? And based on this potential exploitability, if something is interesting for the attackers or not, if it's easy to exploit or not in my application, and all these details, okay? For example, if we go to the specific, this project, okay? I don't know. Because I cannot see the, I click it in a different, I change the order, so. Okay, so we have here the different vulnerabilities, and as we saw before, we have the reachability analysis. In this case, we are doing that, or we are confirming that this vulnerability is reachable. Why? Because from our application, we have detected 6 different paths that are putting or are introducing this vulnerability in my application. For each path, we are showing the source, where is, or the place in your application that is introducing a path that is reaching the vulnerable part in the component. In some cases, we are going to have 6. In other, we are going to have only a couple of them or any of them. Okay, so we are going to have all this information here, so you can prioritize anything. For example, in this case, this is not reachable. This means that we have demonstrated that there is no a path to make this affecting the application. So probably we can ignore this vulnerability. In the other case, this critical one, this is reachable. We have the different paths, and more important, or we can fix this vulnerability automatically from the platform. Okay, we are going to show how to do it also this later. In this case, the information that you are going to need for this report and this kind of thing, all the affected versions, the version that you are using. We are going to see this status later for the incident response and how we can change the status of the management of the vulnerability. This is the EPSS score for the exploitability, vector attack, all the information, all the detail here. Okay, the information, the specific information from the database. This is the provenance. In case of being an indirect dependency, we are going to show you who is introducing this dependency in your application, because the direct dependency is the dependency you have to change to solve the vulnerability. This is information about the exploits, okay? We can have more than one. So all this information about the exploit, the exploits available and all these kind of things are going to be there also. So you have all this information here with all these important things, okay? And for example, if you select all of them, you can select all the vulnerabilities and you can click fix all of them. So the system is going to detect what I can do automatically or what has to be manually. And in this case, we can solve most of them automatically. So I can create the pull request that is going to change the configuration of my product to say, okay, change everything to remove all the vulnerabilities. Something interesting from this point is, may I break something in my product if I apply this upgrade of the component or whatever, or this kind of things? Well, for that we have this remediation risk that is going to support you in analyzing what's the impact of doing version upgrade. Okay, to solve the vulnerability, the standard solution is doing a version bumping to the version that fixes the vulnerability. So we are going to support you in this remediation plan. The remediation risk analysis is going to analyze what's happening with your product if you upgrade to a specific version, the version that is recommended at any newer version. In this case, if you upgrade to the recommended version, you are going to solve one vulnerability, but you are going to have still a lot of vulnerabilities pending of resolution. Okay, after doing our analysis, we can confirm that if you migrate to the latest version, you are going to solve all the vulnerabilities, and most important, you are not going to have any breaking change. A breaking change is something that breaks your application from the compilation point of view or from the runtime point of view. In this case, our analysis is saying that it's safe to upgrade to this version with confidence to make to ensure that everything is continue working. So you have the possibility of select the version that you want to apply for the resolution. You can apply all the resolution automatically in bulk mode, for example, and this kind of thing. So you have everything that you are going to need to answer as soon as you detect something. Okay. So with this, we have the set of components that we are using in the project or in my product. I can do all the inventory, all the information. I can export the SBOM to share with the different things. And I have all the information about all the vulnerabilities in my product. The new things is, okay, what's happening is something new appears suddenly. Okay. In this case, we have some notifications configuration. The notification, we have a lot of different things to notify to the customer through different ways, Gmail, email, Slack, WebSocket interface to integrate with something in real time with you, and all the different things. Okay, you can configure the notifications you want to receive from this specific thing. Probably the most interesting thing is beyond the activity is to detect if there is new issues or new problems with the vulnerabilities. For example, if we detect any new critical vulnerability, or if we detect any suspicious behavior, or if we detect any malware, okay, or if something has been exploited, or if we detect a new exploit, for example, for one of the vulnerabilities that you have. Okay, so you can check this part to be notified as soon as we detect something. You are going to receive mails like this one, for example. In this case, We have the analysis of your components. We know the components that your product is using, and if tonight or during the upgrade of the database, we detect a new vulnerability reported by anyone that is affecting to your components, we are going to notify you. Okay, you don't need to scan anything, but okay, have or take into account that this new vulnerability is affecting this component that is in your product, whatever. Okay, so you have the information, the link, you can act and you can start doing the analysis and the incident response in case it affects to your security. We can detect these vulnerabilities that are reported in different databases, but we also have the possibility of notifying you about malware in newer versions that you are using. We are analyzing in real time all the packages that are published in the different registries, okay? So npm, maven, pyp, whatever technology you are using, we analyze as soon as we detect that someone has published a new component or a new version of the component, we analyze it and we analyze the intention of the code. So we can detect suspicious activity or suspicious intention in the code of these components. So, for example, if you are using a specific version of the component, we are going to notify you. Okay, don't upgrade to this new version of the component because it seems suspicious or seems malware. So we can protect you and we can raise an alert if we detect that you are using a malicious version of the components that you are using. This is a way of protecting you against zero-day attacks from the malware point of view. Okay. The best practices recommends don't upgrade to the latest version, but in any way, we can notify you all these things regarding new vulnerabilities, new malware, new weapons in the components that you are using, or the vulnerabilities that could affect to your product. So you are going to receive this in real time in any moment as soon as we detect in the wheel. Okay. With this, we could say, okay, we have everything more or less, and we have to start doing the incident response and this kind of things. Let me switch because I realized that I don't have some permissions here enabled. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to do this part. For example, this is a standard project. Well, we have the SCA and we have all this information. We have consider new vulnerability that is exploitable. I have to manage. How can I, when I have to start the incident response, first of all, having all the information, we have it, and then it's affecting to me, yes or no, based on the reachability analysis and all these kind of things. We have one additional capability, that is the AI triage. With the AI triage, and knowing the context of your product, we can analyze if the vulnerability is affecting your product with more detail and more information, so you can support your incident response plan. In this case, the triage is calculating three things. First of all, it's confirming that it's a true positive, that is not a false positive, or is not affecting to you. So in this case, it's affecting the product or the project. And then we calculate two different things. One, first, the urgency for the remediation based on the impact and how easy is to exploit this vulnerability. And the other part is the complexity of the resolution, the remediation. How easy is to remediate this? Okay. With this information, you can create or you can start doing your plan. Okay. For example, in the incident response, Nariman told a set of different phases. Okay. First of all, well, it's open. Once it's open, I can change the status. For example, I'm going to analyze if it's affecting to me or not. Okay. Analyzing exploitability, for example. So you are going to change the status and you are going to have the information and the historical set of changes here, because you are having the audit of who did any change, explanation and whatever. You can add more information here and you can even change again more things. Once we have finished, we can say, okay, yes, it's spot. We can confirm, yes. It's confirmed. So In this case, we have here all the full history and the current status, so you can start doing things. You can do confirmation, or even you can discard it. Okay, to discard, you have several status for muting the vulnerability and to reduce the noise. Okay, you can do it in the platform, or you can use an external ticketing tool or anything you want. Okay, the other thing, or the that to support you to prepare this remediation plan or this incident response with this information we have in the triage, we can have, or we show this remediation view. Remediation view is a complementary view to the risk path. In this way, we have, okay, you have all these risks to solve. This is what you have to do to solve or to remediate those risks. Okay, in this screen, we are going to show, okay, you have to upgrade this version to this other version, this other package. You don't have any fix for this other version. So you have here the plan of things that you have to do in your product to solve the vulnerabilities. You can probably to say, okay, I'm going to do only the automatic things. I'm going to launch what is automatic, and then I'm going to do the plan for the manual activities. Okay, so you have this capability to create this action plan to solve the vulnerabilities. I'm showing you in the SCA, but you have the same approach for SCA. SAT, sorry. So you have the same thing to aggregate fixes by different locations or things, and you have for sure aggregated view for all the things that you have to solve. As you can see here, you have information about the type of remediations that you have to apply, the savings because of the automation, and all these kind of things. Okay, so well, I think or at least I cover all the different stages regarding discover everything, having the mentor. Sorry, I'm going to show you one last thing. I forgot. This is regarding for example, I'm in the SCA. I have this repository, and I was saying I have here different releases, right? So I have the latest or the baseline or whatever, and I have here the release 5.1, 5.2, or whatever. So I can compare the different views regarding a baseline that is probably the original issue or the original release. I can see the evolution from that point through the different places. So here I'm going to see what has been removed, that is what has been solved, and new vulnerabilities that has entered in this release. I can compare with the baseline, or I can compare with different releases, the 5.1 with the 5.2. So we have all this visibility to see the evolution of the different vulnerabilities. We have the specific detail of the vulnerabilities that have been solved and has been introduced in every release. So, okay, you have all this information from all the points. And with this, I think that we have covered more or less everything regarding inventory, configuring the product, see the different evolution, SBOM, information, notifications. I don't know if someone has any specific question regarding any specific topic for the process or whatever.
We have
to answer.
We have a couple of questions, and maybe before that, I also want to comment a bit on this view that you have now. When you make a physical product with digital components, or let's say industrial machine, huge machine that has a PLC, that controls the parts, you have touch screen, then maybe you have some server where you collect the metrics and statistics of the machine, errors, etc. In this case, one product consists of many different repos. And in your example, you had a repo for mobile application, for web application, the backend application, but they're all part of the same product, like in this example you're showing. And by using this group feature, like you made the product A group, you tag them together, multiple repos, and now you can work on that particular product. So that's all these repos as a group together becomes your product. And you can also, if you're releasing or placing on the market certain product, you can create separate branches for release, group those together and say, like, this is a version we released last year of a physical product, because physical product is not something you continuously release. You usually have this like branch off usually at some point. And now you also demonstrated in your demo that you can assign custom properties. In this case, for European Cyber Resilience Act, you need to document what is the moment you placed this product on the market or made it available for sale. It's not the same as when you released it, right? Maybe you release it tomorrow, but you actually formally launch this for sale in 1 month. So with custom properties, you can put these kind of dates and see if this product, when it's placed on the market, is it still actively supported for hotfixes or not? So based on these different tags, different custom properties, you can quickly see your risk and what need to be done there. Then another interesting thing that you showed, we need to for sure act on active exploits, right? That you do, so you need to report. And that view, the field, like from wide to narrow, it exactly shows you like the 16 issues on the right side which are exploitable. These are very high chance that they actually are exploitable, because of course you still need to look into them. It can be false positive, but based on tool analysis, we know, we have evidence that there is a vulnerability. You have a piece of code that actually uses that vulnerable function of that component, and there is evidence that is actually in production. So, and there is evidence that there is active exploit in the wild of this vulnerability. So these are everything you need for the evidence to act. And in this case, you might have thousands of issues on the left side, but you only have 16 on the right, and only like 1 of them, 2 of them are actually critical, and that's where you're going to focus on. And lastly, you also showed notifications per team, so you can create a policy notification that you can immediately notify someone that there is active exploit when you have one new exploitable issue all the way on the right side of this pipeline. So in my opinion, as CRA expert, this satisfies notification obligation, because you want to focus on this right corner, and you want to be able to investigate, triage it, read what's wrong with this problem, how to handle it, and even you suggest fixes with AI directly, right? Pull requests. So technically, it supports whole life cycle for notification obligations. For next year, secure by design, you of course need to educate the developers about threat modeling and more principles. So that's a bit more. But for this year, this is sufficient. I see a couple of questions, and one of them is nice. Jesus, I will let you answer it. Once we know the 24-hour clock has started, what's actually the bottleneck? What do you think are the typical things that people lose time when they be aware of active incident in one of their components, and by the time they mitigate it? What do you think about it?
I think the most critical part is always the triage and the verification if something is affecting to me. How urgent is to solve this thing, okay? Or if it's affecting some personal information, or how critical. This is the most time-consuming thing, because you have to do all the analysis in the code. You have to verify. You have to understand where is the vulnerability and how it works. So with this precision panel, this is exactly what is reducing and what is doing this task in an automated way. So you don't have to all this analysis that are taking your time and the manual time, okay, is here, and you can extract directly the evidence for all these type of decisions. Is affecting to me, yes or not? So if it's affecting to me, where are the exploits, or where's the piece of code I have to consider to remediate the problem. Okay, so I think yes, this is the most important part, or doing all the analysis, because until now it's manual and it takes time, and is the most important part of the automation.
I see one more quite interesting question. I might need to help you with this one, but it says open source components make up most of our code base, right? Typical. Are we responsible for reporting vulnerabilities in dependencies we didn't write ourselves? Do you want me to help on this one? Because
I don't know what is saying the framework and the regulation. From my perspective as a developer, as a software developer, and this, I think that everybody is responsible to notify if something is wrong with a component or whatever. Okay, probably you don't publish in your blog post or in the news, but you have to contact with the maintainers to say, okay, I detected this, please work on that. And when everything is fixed or there is something that has been fixed, then you can promote and publish in the different databases. Okay, in this version, there is this vulnerability that is fixed in this other. This is the, I don't know, responsible way of acting according to my impression. Okay, but I don't know the regulation.
Yeah. And by law, based on legislation, you are, as manufacturer, responsible for the security of the product that you sell to consumer. Consumers don't care if it was open source or if you wrote the component yourself. Consumers care that they get the hotfix for their problem quickly. And that's why if you choose a third-party component that is not well maintained, and if you don't update to hotfixes version of that one, you just leave it as is, you are liable. It's your problem as a manufacturer. And even if you know the problem lies in one of the open source libraries, you contact to the maintainer of that open source library and say, hey, please, my product, because of your vulnerability now is exploited. You cannot force them to fix it. Open source maintainers, library maintainers, are not liable. They are not forced to help you in this situation. It's you who has to take care of this. And it means that the whole open source ecosystem is changing now, because suddenly those freelance, actually those volunteers that are writing this project at night, they become very important. And now you want to support those projects that you rely on. So if that's really key component that you're using as open source, you really want to support that organization, support that open source project. And of course, there are some open source stewards like Linux Foundation, Eclipse Foundation. They are overseeing the security of the products and the components that they manage. And if you pick those ones, then you have some contact person and you can expect them to coordinate the fixes in those open source libraries. But if you're not using Linux Foundation, Eclipse Foundation, or such a open source steward organizations, then it's your problem. And it's up to you to deliver a hotfix, a mitigation, alternative solution, maybe different open source library, whatever, or turn off the feature. You can also eliminate the feature completely if you cannot protect it. But it's fully your responsibility to fix.
Good to know, Nariman.
Yeah.
I didn't know this detail.
Yeah. And maybe finally, I see one more question about SBOM. Like, do we need to share SBOMs to customers, right? From legal perspective, in US, you have to share SBOMs if you're selling to government agencies, if they are your customers. So there's special legislation there that you must provide SBOM. But in Europe with CRA, you don't have to provide SBOM to your customers, but you have to provide it to authorities, to ENISA, when they ask for it. So you don't have to proactively send it, but they wrote it in a law that they will contact you, they can contact you when they're making research internally to see what components are used in European market and what is risk on European market. So you must be able to demonstrate and provide SBOMs on request for each of your products. So that's why the group's feature you have here is very important. So for that group, you should be able to give SBOMs of each repo in that group to authorities when they ask for it. Well, with that, I think we are on time. So it's been exactly 1 hour now. Anything else you want to add, Jesus? That's very insightful.
Yeah.
Yes. And to our listeners, if you need any help with your CRA strategy, we are active volunteers, contributors to OWASP projects, on conferences, we are speaker. Feel free to reach out to us and just chat with us. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't mean you have to be our customer. I provide cybersecurity consultants, expertise in CRA. Jesus provides the tools that you need to automate it. And we work together. And we're always happy just to talk, to validate your CRA strategy, that you're on the right path. Don't waste your time spending money, doing things in the wrong direction. We will be happy to validate your strategy and make sure that you are doing right things and at the most cost-efficient way. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. See you or send us any question or anything you need. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.